All right, just waiting for this to load up. Got a link.
I just set up my wife's home office, and I'm using that one now. And I just got her a nice 32-inch curved monitor that I'm using.
Nice.
And now I think I want one. I just don't know where I put it.
So yeah, I'm in Chicago, Rene, and
Oh, nice.
And Warren is in Pennsylvania.
Okay, great.
So he's on your time zone. I'm an hour behind you. So
Yeah, no worries. You both know what snow is, so at least we have some common ground.
yes, we do. Yeah,
Not this year. I don't. Not this
Oh,
year.
really? It was snowing until like a week ago here.
Where are you? Northeast?
Montreal.
Okay, you're up there. Yeah, south of Boston, pretty much got nothing. Maybe literally less than an inch the whole winter. It was crazy. It's sad
because
actually.
John Gruber is so hot, it keeps the whole city warm.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I just listened to your interview with Dalrymple a couple weeks ago. And
nice.
That was great. Yeah, he is a good guy. That was a great interview. You guys have known each other for so long.
Yeah, he used to be Canadian.
That's right. Until he moved to the U.S.
Yeah, tanked Heineken Canada declared bankruptcy short thereafter.
Montreal's beautiful. I was there.
Yeah,
10 years ago. Yeah, love it.
Warren moderates. There's a group on Facebook called Mac to the Future. There's about 3,000 plus members on there. So that's how him and I met. And
yeah, just hang on Facebook most of the time, and
that's an awesome name.
Yeah,
Back to the Future.
That was my my idea.
So you saw the show notes.
Yeah.
Basically, our format is I start with some news stories, and I figured we're hot off the press with the Apple earnings report, so I know we'd have a lot to talk about there. And then I'm linking back to Jason Snell's bar graphs, because I love his bar graphs every time he does those. And then got some news stories.
So you're on the Jason Snell, not the Ritchie bar graph side of that war.
Yeah, I went on the Snell side today. Sometimes I look at the VTG. Yeah, I am a subscriber of Mac Stories. So
too much good bar graphs to go around.
Yeah, there is a lot, but no, I saw Jason's first this time, so I just grabbed it.
No, I'm not trying to start any
ruckuses
here.
I know you're not. I know you're not. And then we'll talk about you. I want to talk a little about you going to Indy, and then Warren Warren's more into beta testing than I am, but I do beta a little bit. We're going to dabble into that. And then I assume you have a Magic Keyboard iPad? Or?
Actually, it was supposed to arrive today, and it's been on the truck for delivery since 8:30 this morning, and they still haven't. So I'm guessing I was supposed to have one much earlier, but they wouldn't take it across the border, and that's never happened before. And so I had to get one from Canada instead.
I had to chase down the UPS driver. No lie.
Yeah. Last week we talked about
intercepted the UPS driver to get mine. So
we are live, by the way. Be careful, guys. I forgot to tell you
no worries.
My wife.
But in case you say anything that you don't want to be said, we both have it. We both got it on Friday, so we're gonna actually we've had a 1 week into it. But awesome. I know you'll have some great conversation with us on that topic.
I don't know if you guys know the Legal Eagle channel. He's a good friend of mine, and he did a video where he's like, "Stop admitting to things. Just don't admit to things on the internet. Don't say anything." So I take that advice to heart.
I only need to hide purchases from one person, and she's in this house. So
a wife.
Yeah.
That's
pretty much it. Everybody else could know. Right. I don't care.
All right, I just started the recording, and I use Audio Hijack, awesome. And then I also do record it with Zoom just to be safe as a backup. Yeah, Zoom has been working pretty good for us, so we've been just using Zoom.
Still kills my processor for some. My fans are going crazy on my Mac Pro.
All right,
I don't care.
I'm running it in Chrome,
right,
yeah. There you go.
All right, Rene, you ready? We're gonna
get
started then. All right, great. Thanks again. We're gonna do my intro and we'll get you going here. All right, everybody, we're gonna start recording the show here in 3, 2. Welcome to episode 96 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, here. How you doing, Warren?
Doing good. Another week of this semi quarantining, but I'm still here.
Yes.
Thanks.
And I am absolutely thrilled. We have a great guest this week, the one and only Rene Ritchie from iMore fame, but he's now indie. But I welcome you to the show, Rene. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I have shelter in place here. I apologize.
Yeah, so do I. So we're not alone. So, but I'm so thrilled that you're here. I know we're going to have a lot of great, lively conversation tonight because we're all Apple fans and love talking about this stuff. So, our show is always we try to keep it a lot focused on iOS, but nothing's off limits. We love talking about any related technologies. So, but we're going to be talking about the earnings call. Actually, just happened a couple hours ago, so it's like really fresh off the press. So I thought that'd be a great topic to talk about.
Awesome.
As well as Warren and I both have our iPad, our Magic keyboards for our iPads. I'm sad to hear that Rene hasn't gotten his yet, but
no, on the truck for delivery.
Yeah.
Chase it down. Chase down the truck.
And yeah, we're going to talk about all kinds of other stuff. So this is going to be a great show, and let's go ahead and let's get started. Yeah, the Apple earnings call. The quarter two results were just announced about 3 hours ago since we record this, and Apple had I thought a great quarter of $58.3 billion in revenue, and most in the recent quarter, which was actually up slightly, about a 1% over last year. What was your first impressions on that, Rene?
Yeah, I think that given everything that's going on, it was like you can't say it was a great quarter, like in an absolute sense, but in a relative sense, it was way better than I expected. Like I thought if ever there was a quarter where like just it would be dragged down, their services revenue was exceptional. Their wearables, which includes Apple Watch, AirPods, Beats, those sorts of categories, was a quarterly record. So their online retail had sort of made up in part for their physical world retail. So I thought it was really solid performance, all things considered.
Yeah, no, I was pretty impressed with it all. And as expected, the iPhone didn't do as well, but I think it did pretty good. But considering, what did you think, Warren, on the iPhone results? $29 billion down a little bit, but
it was from 31 to 29, I guess. So yeah. I mean, it's definitely not bad, and it's a weird time, but the SE is gonna probably help next quarter, probably not in this quarter. I think the article I saw something that said Samsung wasn't even releasing their financials this time around. So I mean, the fact that Apple is releasing it and it's not terrible, I think it's a good sign, and I think it's I haven't checked the off-hour trading. If anybody else has, I'm not sure, but usually tomorrow it's going to do the same thing. It'll jump up a little bit because I think people will be sort of happy with this, and I didn't listen to it, but I understand it was sort of brief. It wasn't that detailed, but I think it was from what I'm looking, it looks pretty good considering.
Oh, what'd you think, Rene, on the iPad, on the iPhone, that is?
Yeah, I thought it would be down harder, especially, and Tim Cook did a good job explaining that at the beginning, they thought it was going to be a breakout quarter, like a record setting quarter, because they had all the right signals going into it. And then China shut down, and then rest of the world shut down, and then China reopened, but people are still hesitant to go out, and the online did make up for part of it. But he was sort of optimistic, and I like Tim Cook because he's very focused, he's very measured, he speaks very well, and he sort of set the stage. Like iPhone SE is doing well, it's appealing to people who like smaller phones. They were getting a lot of switchers on it, which I think was an important signal, because it does seem to appeal to people who may not necessarily want an iPhone, but do want a less expensive phone. Their primary thing is, I need something to access Instagram and TikTok and Facebook in my hand, and if the iPhone is cheap enough, that's their internet to them, and they'll just as soon get that if it's easier to maintain and use and safer and all these things than maybe whatever Android phone, low cost Android phone their carrier was pushing before.
Yeah, and then the iPad actually didn't do too terribly bad, considering it was I think was only down a billion from last quarter reporting. It was 4.4 billion this quarter, and was only 4.9 a year ago. So, but I think the iPad Pro release that was probably a little bit of a help. Did you get the iPad Pro, the new one?
Yeah, I have the benefit and the curse of reviewing like every generation of product.
That's right.
And like for most people, they're like, it's not a big improvement. But I have to remind myself that normal humans don't do that. Like geeks, tech enthusiasts, they'll buy year after year, but 80-90% of the market, they'll buy every 3, 4, 5 years. And the important thing to them isn't that it's similar to last year's, is that I'm going to spend my money now. I want the absolute best version of it's like a car. Very, very few people buy cars every year. But when you do buy a car, you want that year's model because you want it to last as long as possible. So I think it was really important that it'd been 18 months. And even though it wasn't a huge update, it was still a newer model that will last longer than if they had just kept the previous model around another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. Well, Warren and I both decided, and we're ones that probably buy new devices all the time. He's more of a Mac purchaser. He likes to buy new Macs. Like, it seems like every other month, Warren, wouldn't you say?
The MacBooks have pretty decent resale value. Let's just go with that. So
yeah, that's why you do it. But we both decided to stay with our 2018 iPad Pros, so which of course works great with the keyboard, which we'll talk about. So, yeah, the iPhone revenue was good, and the services revenue, that was a big jump I saw there. We went from 10.2 billion to 13.3 billion, which is quite a jump. And I seem to remember Tim Cook did mention that the news app News Plus had quite an increase. Didn't they say that, Rene?
Yeah, it's still like it's a bit of a sore spot with me because it is available in Canada, but it's still, compared to like the TV, Apple, like TV Plus and Apple Music and all these things that are available in 100 to 150 countries. News is like still in 4 countries. So I wish that was international, because I think then we'd see a real jump. And I understand licensing is hard and all these things, but that's like sort of the one, international is sort of the story that I want them to round out with their services business.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I had stopped my subscription to News Plus, but then that kind of inspired me. I signed up again for a month just to get back into the world of looking at a lot of the news, since obviously we follow it all the time here on In Touch with iOS. So, yeah, it's I think all their services, Arcade and
Arcade is great.
It's a great gaming platform.
People have a lot of time on their hands right now to do this,
especially with TV Plus, obviously with a lot of people still have free subscriptions, but that'd be interesting to see where that goes after after it has a year under its belt, where that revenue goes. But all their services are just going well. iCloud is still hot, and people are paying for the subscriptions. So it's
and the App Store, it's a juggernaut that just keeps on giving.
Yeah, the App Store is just absolutely crazy how much money they're making on the App Store. That's for sure, taking that 30% cut. So it's that
Mario, Dr. Mario, that's doing it for me. That's getting all my money.
Well, I mean, that's a good point though. It's like Apple's promised to double services revenue between 2016 and 2020, and yet at the same time, people are complaining about the 30% cut. And I know back when they first created the App Store, that was great because all the online web stores were way more than 30%, or you had to deal with box software, or you had to run your own store, and it was super painful. But now that 30% grates more. But if Apple, and a lot of it, like, to be clear, is like Fortnite and Pokemon Go and I forget, Bejeweled, like all those different Bejeweled, like 80 different versions of Bejeweled, and they make so much in in-app purchase income. We saw the guy from Epic like just try to pull it out of the Play Store to save money on, like, not to have to give up his cut. And changing that dynamic, that'll really impact services revenue. So I think they're going to be super careful with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then wearables, of course, they never announced how much as far as the percentage of the business is wearables, but we actually have a link in the show notes to our friend Jason Snell in the 6 colors, and he did his pretty bar graphs. So so they're saying a 23% increase over last the class score was 30%. So slight difference in revenue, but Apple Watch is still hot as ever, and all the wearables. So.
Yeah, and Neil Seibert, I think, does really good estimates of how many they actually sell quarter after quarter. I think he's more reliable than a lot of the strict financial analyst calls, and it's amazing because people kept discounting it, saying it wasn't worth anything. It was wasn't great, and it's just kept selling. AirPods too; they've become a meme. Those products are they're really showing people that Apple can sell more than just an iPhone.
As you see, all three of us have our AirPods Pro. So this is probably
they were saying, they're saying wearables is almost it's a Fortune 500 company just in itself.
Yeah, 140, I think you said this time.
Yeah, it was some crazy thing they announced that it could be its own company by itself from how much they're doing with wearables. So it's
the AirPods and the Apple Watch are they're again it's they work well together, and people a couple of years ago, Dave and I were talking about this, or even like 2 years ago, you don't see that many people with AirPods and Apple Watches, but now it's hard not to see people with them on. So it's, and it's funny now because you see a lot of the news crews working from home, and you see they all have AirPods, and they're all wearing their AirPods in there, and they have their Apple Watch too. So, it's people are, it's more common not to see them than not to see them at this point.
When I was in New York a few months ago, we went to a play, and the people around me, I think 5 or 6 out of the 8 people around me had Apple Watches on. And then like you watch John Krasinski's Good News Tonight, and they did the Hamilton thing, and like half the Hamilton singers were wearing AirPods.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Some good news. That's
some
John
good news.
Krasinski
That's right.
is amazing with what he's done with that. That's just a blast.
Absolutely.
He's got like something like 1.4 million followers already. I mean, we need to get some of the followers for you.
It's interesting though, because there are some celebrities who've done YouTube for a while and they have like under 10,000 subscribers or like 20,000. But there's people like Jack Black or John Krasinski who just hit YouTube and it's 1 million within a week, and then 2 million, and then 3 million. And I don't know if it's just some personalities suited better than others, or the kind of videos they're making suited better, but it's really interesting to see super famous people both succeed and not succeed at YouTube.
Yeah.
It was Jennifer, wasn't it Jennifer Aniston who opened up her Twitter recently, and now she's
no, I think it was Instagram, maybe, was it?
Instagram. And she had a picture of all the friends. That was her like debut shot.
Yeah, and then I think just recently
10 million followers in a matter of
the last thing she did was the some guy wrote the Friends theme song written to instead of I'll be there for you, is I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So
the COVID version.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then just looking overall, the $11.2 billion in profit, which to me that's not too shabby considering. I think the late day trading on the stock was it's about $296 a share, I think, at this point, because it was when COVID all hit, that's I should have bought stock back then. I think it was down like $245 a share, something like that. So I think the stock's going to be fine. And then they did announce a dividend, I believe, if I remember correctly, hearing that it was 82 cents a share. So that's going to be for the stockholders, which is great.
And they kept saying the business is robust, right? They kept saying the business is solid, the business is durable, it's enduring. It's like they kept saying like yes, this is a special moment in time, but everything that we have, from the amount of money we have to the product pipeline we have, all of that just means that we can weather this storm and then come out really solid on the other side.
Absolutely. And then just looking at the pie chart that Jason has on the page, 50% is the iPhones. That's their business, and then they know that iPhone is it's going to be their hottest business for years to come. Yes, he's going to make it
the hottest business in history. Like even people who have oligopoly control over fossil fuel resources don't make as much money as the iPhone.
No, and with the SE now out and it's going to be selling like crazy. And I'm seeing carriers, what was it, Metro in the US, Metro by T-Mobile, they're giving away the phone practically. It's if you just get the 64 gig SE with the signing up with them, the $99. I mean, how is that not going to get people with iPhones in their hands, first time iPhone users, as well as if they have older ones to trade them in?
And that's why I think Apple shifted from talking about unit sales, talking about platform size. And they said the platform grew again, like the amount of iPhones in pockets grew. And that means everyone who has an iPhone, they can sell Apple Music and Apple Arcade and Apple Watch and AirPods. And that's sort of, they spent all this time building up the iPhone, and now they can use the iPhone to build up everything else. Yeah.
So, and then the rest of the breakdown, 23% now is at services. I could see the numbers start going up even further on that. Over the next few years, and it'll just continue to increase with the services they're providing now.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting as they keep building and layering things on there. Like you can see the AirPods lineup started with one AirPod. Now you have AirPods and AirPods Pro and just everything else. Apple Watch. Now you have the $199 Apple Watch. It's just nice to watch them fill out those things.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, that was the earnings. I think I'm a happy Apple customer. I'm as well as a stockholder, so I'm not complaining. I think it was good news as far as I'm concerned, and I think all of us
good.
here.
It's good to have money during this time, so money in the bank. So, and they're going to knock out some competition during the COVID thing too, with a bunch of things. A lot of companies are not going to survive, and I'm not talking Samsung and things like that, but I'm talking about maybe other services that that might not have made it through it. So,
and there'll be new opportunities like Tim Cook was talking about, learning at home and work from home, and just new businesses and some of the health stuff, like people using the ECG app instead of going into a clinic and seeing a doctor and risking exposure. And all of those things creates opportunity for future business. And I think we saw with like the .com bust and then the recession that a lot of the companies that are huge now sort of came out of those periods. They instead of, and I know it's for some companies are drawing back and downsizing and laying off and doing these things, but he was adamant that Apple was going to move forward and thrive. And I think the smart companies are going to do that. And within 5 years, there'll be a slew of businesses we've never heard from today that got their start during all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the earnings. But a couple of the services that kind of came out of that, the Apple Card. It looks like Apple actually is planning to come up with some other financing options besides the iPhone. Mac Rumors just threw an article about that just after the announcements. Maybe potentially offering 24-month interest on an iPad or another type of device or of a Mac. They have the Apple Card in Canada, I assume, or
no? It's U.S. only. Apple Cash and Apple Card are U.S. only still. And I think it's because the U.S. has a very different bank infrastructure than a lot of countries. Like in Canada and Australia, they're federally chartered. There's very few of them. They have very little incentive to compete with each other. And Apple, it was sort of like AT&T Singular was at its low point. And Verizon said no to the iPhone, and AT&T said do whatever you want. And Goldman Sachs is like at their low point, and I'm sure a bunch of other banks were like, nope, hard nope. And Goldman Sachs says, yes, whatever you want. And I don't think there's I think it's a harder sell in other countries for the banks to give over that kind of power to Apple.
Yeah. So according to the article, Tim Cook actually said, they quoted in saying is that you will see some other products shortly.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been flexible with payments, which was nice. We took advantage of that. Why not? Where they allowed us to skip a payment for a month and there was no interest on it, because as long as you didn't have interest prior to that. So,
and you still get the cash back. So
and
if
the
I
cash
understand
back
it right, if you finance the phone, you could still get the cash back per month without the interest. So it's not a bad deal if you want to do it that way.
Yeah, it's a shame. I wish they would expand it out to other countries, and especially you guys are our neighbors, Canada. Come on, gotta give you guys Apple Cards. So
don't give Canada credit issues. Whatever they're doing it better than we are.
Everyone has their ups and downs.
But and then next story that came across, this was on Mac Rumors as well, is Microsoft is testing an iPadOS multi-window support for both Word and PowerPoint. Since iPadOS came out early last year, Apple's been including native support for opening 2 or more windows at the same time, side by side, which is awesome on an iPad. I'm sure all of us can agree to that. Excuse me. And now what they're looking to do is now you could take a Word document, have 2 separate Word documents. And this has been always a challenge for years, just being on a PC or a Mac where you couldn't do it on there. Well, now they're working on now in beta that you are going to be able to put 2 Word documents next to each other so you can do comparisons. What did you think, Rene?
Yeah. I both love it. And I also hate that it seems like it takes Microsoft and Google forever to roll out support for features that indie developers have day one at the, iOS 13 comes out day one, all the indie developers have their stuff polished and ready to go. And Google and Microsoft are like, what? There's a new beta? Huh? Oh, you want picture in picture on YouTube? What? I mean, it's just that's the part that sort of, so I'm glad they're doing it. I just wish that they, with the tremendous resources there, and it's a great team. The Microsoft team for iOS is a great team, but I just wish they had the corporate will to sort of do what, and I know it's a false comparison, and working in a corporate environment is so different than being an indie, but man, I just wish that they would do it day and date.
Yeah. You don't know, most who listen know I work for an insurance company. I'm an IT support guy, so I'm dealing with Microsoft on a daily basis. So I mean I support Macs and I also support PC, unfortunately. So you got to support both worlds. So it comes to my mind is Microsoft Teams has become such a huge thing now. It was in the enterprise, but now it's opening out even more into the consumer world. But they're doing the same thing. Microsoft, they're making all these things they're promising they want to do and make changes. And again, my point is just they're just not coming through with it efficially.
Isn't it so amazing though that we're talking on Zoom right now? We're not using any of the 19 different Google Hangout, Meet, apps. We're not using Skype. We're not using Teams. We're not using Slack. And Slack is a good example too, is like these huge companies, and they're just being outperformed by these small companies that seemingly come out of nowhere. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Zoom was, I mean, I've been a big Zoom fan for forever. I also lead an Apple user group, and we've been doing, we're doing stuff with virtual now because we can't meet in person. So we had been using Zoom just for like our board meetings and such, but now Zoom is, it's the way. I've already done 2 sessions virtually, and it's been an absolute success because Zoom is just flawless. I mean, I just had little or no issues.
Microsoft and Google are also, just making their video products free for the normal user. So
Microsoft just did.
About a week or two ago, and Google yesterday or today just did it for their product.
You can hang out on Meet. I forget, Russell Holly made a good joke. You can hang out on Meet or Meet on Hangouts, and nobody knows which one is which anymore.
Yeah. Well, who knows what Google? The Google product I didn't even know existed until the article came out today. So,
unfortunately, I've had a hard learn of Google Meet because my wife is a school teacher and she's been dealing with doing the e-learning, and try to get that to work. And I'm setting up her Mac and trying to do dual screen because she has to see the kids' faces, but we worked it out. But Google Meet is not a.
Well, I remember they used to have Hangouts on air, and it was just such an easy way to get live on YouTube. And I remember Alex Lindsay used to do all the big ones. Like he would do like all the politicians in Washington. He'd do NASA. He'd do Shark Week. He'd do everything. And he'd be like, they changed the interface. I'm about to go live to 100,000 people, and they got rid of the button that I need for it. And why are you people doing this to me?
Yeah. Speaking of Alex Lindsay, he's been doing a session every day on Zoom, and he's using the Zoom, and it's been great. He's got like 40, 50 people showing up every day. It's great. The sessions. So
he is absolutely fantastic.
Alex is good people. So, next story I had was the OtterBox. We all like OtterBox cases. They have now unveiled their first antimicrobial glass iPhone screen protector, and it's approved by the EPA. This was a 9 to 5 Mac. And I remember seeing this at CES when I was there. They were showing some screen protectors with the integrated glass, and now it's registered with the EPA, and now they're offering it for sale for the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and the 10R. Nice. $50 list price, and getting 20% off at the launch. So, Warren, what'd you think of this?
I have an OtterBox pop socket case I like, and then I saw the story and it reminded me of something I got last week from Amazon that I ordered it. So I ordered this like right as COVID started, and I'm like, these things that are supposed to clean your phone with the what's the UV rays and stuff like that.
Yeah, the phone soap.
Phone soap. So this is a Chinese knockoff that came from China, I guess. But listen, wait. You plug it in.
Can't hear it yet.
It's a USB cable.
Oh my.
It talks.
Oh, it's in Chinese.
It's not Chinese. I think it's British. But
it's English.
Anyways, I put my phone in there a couple times and I didn't kill it, and I don't know if it actually killed anything good, So again, with the glass, with the OtterBox, who knows if it actually, works and keeps bad things off the screen. But I'm pretty good at cleaning my screens now. I carry around my bottle of spray disinfectant with me, and I work in a place where I need to kind of wash a lot and clean a lot. So I might be into it when it comes out.
Do you have OtterBox cases on your phones, Rene?
No, I almost never put a case on my phone. I do them when I have to review them, and I have reviewed OtterBox cases in the past, but I always, for some reason, end up going back to the way Johnny and I have designed it. And and I know it's risky, and I know it's crazy and silly, and I've probably scratched them and dropped them way too often, but I normally don't have anything on my iPhone.
Yeah. Well,
battery case more often than not if I'm traveling, but that's who's traveling.
Yeah. Like I've always was a big Mophie fan for years. Yes. I stopped using those, but then I had the iPhone, the Apple case, the battery case.
Yeah.
Renee, have you ever used? I've used clear. I've gone naked too, but I've gone with clear wraps.
I've not.
So if you go to like Slick Wraps and a couple of the other ones, it's basically like a plastic clear skin.
Okay.
And you don't really notice it, but it does protect it from at least scratches. Probably not a drop or anything like that. But
there used to be like Invisible Shield, and I forget what the other one was. Zag. Someone else was doing that too, and they would just liquefy your phone and wrap it in shrink wrap.
But actually, Shield still does. I think. I mean, it's basically like a back protector for the phone. That's more of not the glass type, but the old style.
Yeah.
Plasticky kind of thing. So it's a good option if you do go naked. And I've done that a couple times.
Take a look.
So and then the last story I had was through I was on The Verge. A few weeks ago, did a review of a speaker. I have the Sonos Move, which is a pretty amazing speaker. I just celebrated 20 years at my job, so that was their nice gift to me. So
that's awesome.
I can't complain what at all about that. So I've been really into the speaker and really getting into learning about it more and seeing what they do. And it's amazing the app that Sonos has, because they have so many music services and so many different things you can include on it, and just plays right from the app, which is pretty awesome when you don't have to go all the different services, going all the way from Apple Music to this. But this was for, at least in the US, I don't know if they do this in Canada, but we now can play the audiobooks that are from our local library using the app Libby. And this app actually links to the library, your library card, and you're able to actually play it right directly from, instead of going into the app, you go right to the Sonos app and you're able to play this. So I don't know if they have that by you, Rene.
Some of them do. Yeah. I don't know if it's exactly the same implementation, but yeah, it's like digital library nirvana.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this app now, I've got Sirius XM, I've got Apple Music, I've got, I mean, you name it, it's in there now. I just wanted to just go crazy and I'm just going to look at my app here now with of all the services I have. It's crazy. AccuRadio, Amazon Music, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio. It just goes on and on.
You're gonna have to file a feature request to get one in each ear so you can go through them faster.
Yeah, it's just crazy that they integrate it into the app, which is neat. And then of course the Sonos Move works over Wi-Fi, so just go on your Wi-Fi and play it, and away you go. So thought that was cool that they keep adding services, which is great stuff. So that was the news. I think we had a lot there to chat about, but I wanted to find out. I wanted our listeners to find out a little bit more about you, and you just went indie not too long ago, and would love to hear how that came to be, and where you think you're going to go. And we're definitely going to be talking about your YouTube channel quite a bit. But yeah, tell us all about that.
Yeah. So about 10 years ago, I was working in product marketing for an enterprise company, and it was fine, but I was also like doing freelance work for a website, like for iMore. Back then it was called something else, but it was basically iMore. And I just loved doing that so much more. And then I had the opportunity to go full time with iMore, and I did that. And it was great. It was a drop in pay, absolutely, but it was just such a big quality of life improvement. I was doing something I loved all day, every day. Yeah. And sort of earlier this year, I'd been doing it for 11, 12 years. and it was bought by a huge publishing company called Future PLC, that owns like a Nantec and Tom's Guide and Laptop and Tech Radar and everything, like just so much of everything. And it was a year since then, and they started to become more corporate, because it was before it was like just a bunch of people doing fun work, but all of policies were coming in that were similar to my old corporate job. And I was like, if I could easily just not do anything and be doing this job for another 10 years. Like maybe now they would have laid me off, who knows? But theoretically I could just, not say anything, not do anything. But I realized that I had a chance to try to build something on my own. And I know it's like hubris and privilege and all these things, because a lot of people can't afford to take that kind of risk, especially if they have families and all these other things. But I was like financially stable, had a little bit of runway, and I was like, it's now or never. I either duck my head down and I become like a corporate person for another decade, or I try to do this thing on my own. And I said, I will regret being like another corporate person for 10 years. I might live to regret going indie, but I'd much rather take that risk than always ask myself, what if?
Yeah, no, very inspiring. I'm still in the corporate world, so it's scary. It really is scary when you've got the comfort, especially as much time. I've 20 years with one company. It's pretty difficult to walk away from that. So I commend
especially if you have responsibilities. It's huge.
Yeah. I'm responsible for an office here locally in Chicago. So what's that?
I said they suck, responsibilities.
Yeah, they do suck. But no, it's great to hear. And definitely we're going to, you're now at youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. We'll have a link in the show notes, of course. We'll talk about that at the end as well. But we definitely want to get people watching your interviews. I loved your interview with iJustine. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Thank you.
And I watched the full version too as well, and listened to it on your podcast. So
awesome, thank you.
So yeah, definitely want to check all that out. Usually, what I do is when I have guests, I ask them what Apple gear you always are using. But I kept forgetting you're always getting the review unit, so you can look at stuff. But is there a specific device that you kind of like to keep with you all the time, or are you always changing out?
I change out just enough that I can keep doing tests for things. Like I like to do long-term reviews because I have the luxury of focusing. Like I know some people every week, they're basically looking at a new phone. Like today it was all the Motorola Edge reviews. And last week it was all the OnePlus Pro, Pro 8 reviews or whatever. And the week before that, and that's a very hectic schedule. I don't do a lot of that. So I like to do like iPhone, here's the review. And then 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, because, most people keep their stuff for a long period of time. But personally, I use an Apple Watch Series 6, Series 5. I forget what we're on now, Series 5.
Close to 6.
Yeah.
I was gonna get mad for a second. Wait a second.
You got a beta 6.
And I use a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is the best MacBook I've ever used. And I say that often, but it's so good. And an iPhone 11 Pro, because I used to use pluses, but I find the screen on the Pro is big enough that I don't need the extra size anymore. Yeah,
Morn and I both like the Max. Well, we both have the Max model, so we're pretty happy. I actually can't see the Pro.
I don't mind it. It's just like
it's big.
And it's great for battery. Like when I travel, I almost always take that and a battery case, and then I can go like 3 days.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that I actually, talking about a Mac, I made the mistake of buying the 2019 15-inch MacBook Pro 2 months before the 16-inch came out.
Oh no.
I was out of luck. Apple was not going to have no mind of
not after 2 months.
I was lucky. So. I bought the same one earlier in the year and then sold it, and I got the 16-inch i9 model. So
yeah, that's what I'm using.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's I love it. I love the keyboard so much. I got the 2020 Air to replace my 2018 Air. So I carried a 16-inch. I don't carry the 16-inch. The 16-inch stays home, and the Air comes with me pretty much wherever I go. So
I just use it for Final Cut. The screen is like big enough that I can use it with Final Cut without having to worry about other stuff. And I don't have the huge storage. If I do it over again, I'd probably get more storage because Final Cut is a greedy program.
Did you get the base config?
No, I got 2 terabytes thinking that was enough, and I should have known that it's never enough.
Oh my God.
And it goes up to 8 now. And I have a couple friends who got they call it the Max book, like just basically every option possible.
Right.
And they are just editing, 12-bit raw files on the drive without any concerns.
Yeah.
Nice. I got the 1 terabyte. I'm like, this is more room than I ever will ever
but
need.
you feel it, right? Like you feel that way at first. It's like double what I've ever used. And then like just incrementally, you start getting towards the limits.
I do
Absolutely.
like I do IT support, so I have about like 3 or 4 virtual machines on the thing. That's what fills it up. So, but yeah, I don't do a lot of movie editing, fortunately, for my MacBook.
Now you made me think about this, and then you just talked about this with iJustine as a Final Cut for the iPad. Do you think it's potentially going to happen? Yeah,
I think all of those things are sort of like, again, Apple has so much money that they can do anything that we can think of. They can at least try it out. And I think the challenge there is one that the RAM is constrained compared to a Mac. Like at most, you're going to get 6 gigabytes of RAM on a iPad Pro and maybe the next iPhone Pro. And then just the capacities, there's 1 terabyte of storage instead of, I forget what you can do on them. At one point, I forget the ridiculous amount you can put in a Mac Pro now, but it's huge. Even a Mac like this MacBook Pro is 64. You can get up to 64 gigabytes of RAM and 8 terabytes of storage, and it deals with external storage better than iPadOS does still. So there's all those things. And I think basically it's like they're doing internally what Adobe Photoshop is doing externally. And we get to watch them, and they're trying to figure out what they can take from Photoshop and make work on the iPad. And Apple is doing the same thing, just not telling us yet. And when they have a good enough solution where you can do some local stuff, but some other stuff syncs back and forth with your Mac, I think then we'll see like Xcode and
that was the other thing. Xcode was discussing too. Yeah. So it's really, it excites me because, and I've always been a huge iPad fan for the longest time. And I think it's something to look towards the future for, to have these apps available. I mean, I know Adobe's already trying to do with Photoshop, but really they haven't released Photoshop that full-fledged. I mean, in fact, the one they introduced at WWDC last year, I don't think it still has come to fruition yet.
It's real Photoshop. It's not full. It's the actual Photoshop code base, but not the feature set. And that's it's going to be interesting.
So definitely it's going to be see where it goes. So, well, great. So, again, you're welcome that you're here, and let's talk about beta, because Warren and I always we have this as a topic every week and it seemed like the beta releases would be like every week. Well, last week we had nothing to talk about. So, this week we do. We got beta 3. It just came out. Warren, what did you see new so far? I mean, I know the COVID-19 settings can now be turned off in the health app.
Well, it's actually, it could be turned off. It's on by default, but it's actually there.
I mean, it's on by default. Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually, switched on. It's a weird place, but it's under settings, privacy, health, and then it's in there somewhere. You could also search the word COVID if you really don't know where it is, and under settings it'll find it
right under health.
So I got that. I got that on. I actually, Dave knows, I got tested for COVID actually 2 days ago because I wasn't feeling well, and I work in the I do IT support for a retirement village, and they didn't like that. So it's interesting. Yeah. So I'm clean. So there you go.
Good.
Well, I could do a little sideshow on this, but basically I'm clean, but now I have to go to my regular doctor to confirm that I'm clean so I could go back to work. So I have to go back to my regular doctor and say, they tested me, I'm clean. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
We know we're dealing with that.
So we got the COVID thing. We got the other one is which I haven't tried out yet, but supposedly if you're wearing a mask instead of normally if Face ID doesn't work, it takes about 2 or 3 seconds for the pin pad to show up saying that we can't see you. Now in beta, supposedly if you're wearing a mask, it does you're wearing a mask, and the pin pad to entering your password comes up immediately. So I haven't tried that one out yet. And then the last thing that came out that I heard was FaceTime. Group FaceTime made some changes where it changes the view somehow, where it's
the boxes don't grow anymore when you're talking, so it's not like, because some people they realize that it was a fun effect for a stage demo, but when you're on FaceTime for a long period of time and everyone's floating around, you get sort of just
good, that's going to go away.
So and that goes back, and that made me think when we were talking about Zoom and all the other competitors, a lot of people don't think of FaceTime as, you never hear like people saying, "Oh, we should all FaceTime together." It's always, well, we should all Zoom together or something. And people just don't think of FaceTime for that. And there's a couple of reasons why. Obviously, the main reason is that everybody needs to have an iOS or Apple device for it to work. And there's always that one person who doesn't have it, and then you can't do it.
Yeah.
But then, the other thing is some people don't like the way the group chat looks and works. So I think Apple is getting hip to that, and
I just want a button on everything. Like every group chat should have a Brady Bunch button where you press it and it's just a grid.
Yeah, even Zoom, is it Zoom or even Zoom doesn't do it automatically. You have to sometimes swipe to the left for it to come up with the grid. So
and sometimes it doesn't show enough people, and even like Google Hangouts, you have to get a plugin that fixes it, and it's just all too much work.
Right.
And
you, Rene, you install the betas on all your devices that you have?
I installed on my main device, which is like good and bad because I sometimes forget what normal people, what people who aren't on the beta are living with, or what version they're on, or what features they have. Like especially if it's like they'll get like there's a box. What emoji are you sending me? That's not real yet, or they'll just be something like I'll say go here and do this. I can't do that. So, but I like to see what's coming up and try it out and all, all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm luckily I'm not like that, so I have a 10R.
Nice.
Get a 10R that I can play beta on. I have a first gen iPad Pro, so that's where I keep my betas on. So
I think all my main devices are on beta, which is probably really stupid.
Mine too.
Sounds like Warren. Warren's the same way.
Yeah. You only live once, and I've been doing it for a while. And the only time I ever had a regret was I think at the Apple Watch 2. I put a beta on there and it did something bad to it, and I had to go. Apple had to swap it out for me because you can't revert. That's the only thing that scares me, but it doesn't scare me so much nowadays because it's better. But the Apple Watch betas used to be a little scary because there's no backtracking out.
I had one where it just killed data. Like I was at WWDC, I left Moscone, I installed it, and it just had no data on the phone for like 4 hours. Eventually it came back, but
I did that once too. I went to WWDC, put beta on my phone, and I actually had to go out. I remember to like a T-Mobile store to buy a battery pack because my battery I could actually see the battery like draining as I was looking at it. So I'm like,
and it's funny. Like I have friends who left Apple after like a decade there, and they went through everything, like the purple restore where you had to be plugged in, and then when you had to be on the VPN, and then like and now they're like, don't beta, don't buy Rev A boards, never again. I'm going to wait till the third version before I install it. I'm going to wait till the third version of hardware before I buy it. I used to live on the edge, and now I'm just smooth sailing.
Yeah, but it's not even that bad. I mean, recently, iOS 13 was a little rough in the beginning.
It was hard,
But other than that, it got 12 was a piece of cake.
12 was so good, but I went at DubDub for the 13. Like you had engineers walking around going, no, don't install it.
No.
Nice when you hear that level of confidence from them.
Like when you put 13 on, the big issue was mail, and it's like they just forgot on iOS how to make mail work. It's like 10 revisions of iOS with mail working perfectly, and all of a sudden, with no real changes to the mail app, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. So it's like,
well, I remember there was a Safari bug that when they fixed it, it broke almost everything else. And like, because so many things have been coded with that bug, and like, not because they knew about the bug, but because the bug had a certain behavior and everything else had a dependency on that. And then they fixed it and they're like, so much else is broken. And they had to go back and re-architect a ton of stuff. So like, you never know what's going to happen when you start messing around with the underpinnings.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets really bad, especially on most of the devices, you could just restore it back to the production
until they take the ports off the iPhone, and then it'll be like the Apple Watch.
Yeah. Well, actually, where are they with the internet recovery thing on the iPhone? They're still that was in talk last beta.
Yeah, I don't think it's rolled out yet. I mean, Google was playing around with it 2 years ago, and they didn't ship it. So we'll see. I mean, Apple TV, I think they flirted with it. I don't know how well it's working now because they took the USB-C port off the last Apple TV, and now you have to recover it. I mean, there is one inside if you break into it, but
it's
not meant to be user accessible.
No, like the watch and the what,
Yeah.
I hear people argue with you. Say, no, there's a secret port in there. I'm like, yeah, there's a secret port that if you crack open, your watch is not waterproof anymore and you have to send it back to Apple anyway.
And it's mini lightning.
Silly.
Who has a mini lightning plug anyway? Like, what are you going to stick in there?
The watch is a problem, but it's
speaking of the watch, that of course that's on beta now as well. Was there any? Did you see the subtle changes with that?
It's a little snappier, I think, but I didn't notice anything else really.
And then the iPad, was there? I didn't get it on my iPad yet. I didn't yet get a chance to look, but I don't think I saw anything of note.
No, I don't know if the COVID thing's on the iPad. I don't think it is.
Just the mask stuff. I think if it detects a mask, it shoots you to passcode immediately.
Is that it?
Yeah.
But
so that for those who don't know, that's what they're looking at doing is the if you have a mask on, it'll automatically see you have a mask on and just go right to the passcode, so it doesn't keep trying before you sign in. Which is,
so the COVID tracking is not on the iPad,
and people get confused by that. It's like in order for Face ID to work and be secure, it needs 3 points of geometry, which are your two eyes and your nose. If you eliminate the nose, there's not enough security there. It's just like, oh, you could be one of, I don't know, 10 people instead of 10 million people. So it's like integral to the system. It's like if you take half your finger off and try to use Touch ID, it's not too happy.
I got there, Mac Rumors or something posted some kind of thing where you could train it to try to work with the mask. And I tried it and I was able to, I think, to pull down the mask a little bit to show part of my mouth, and it worked, but it wasn't worth it. Once you're at that point, then it's not worth it anymore. But so the passcode thing is good too, that it comes up right away, because that extra two or 3 seconds, you're like, you gotta wait, then it's like putting numbers, so that's good.
Absolutely. All right.
There was a Mac beta. There was a Mac OS beta on there too, but we don't really see much difference with that either, to be honest.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on. I know everybody was waiting to hear from when we talked about it last week, when your keyboard showed up right when we started recording last week, and I said, let's save it for this week. So I'm talking about the Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro. Both Warren and I received ours last Friday, and I'm going to say probably one word or 2 words: love it. I mean, it's an actually amazing device. And the cool thing is it works with the older iPads. So the 11-inch iPad Pro from 2018 works perfectly fine. The only difference you see is the camera opening is different. That's okay. But the rest of it is just amazing. Warren, why don't you go ahead and start off, and what your thoughts are now? I know you've been raving about it, so you've been waiting to.
Yeah, no, I've been using it. I definitely spent about a day or 2 just learning the gestures, I guess, making sure I got them down pat. I still have trouble getting split screen going with the trackpad. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong.
Trackpad.
Yeah, but it feels good. It feels natural it makes you wonder why another company, even before trackpads couldn't come out with something this good of a keyboard, because it's really a nice keyboard too.
Yeah.
My goal was to see how much I could use the iPad as much as a main computer, because I get asked that a lot, and so I put a lot of things on that I would use on there, a bunch of apps. One of the things is the default. For some reason, I love the unified mailbox in the Mac OS mail app. iOS doesn't have it, so I put Spark on there, things like that. But the experience is good. I love how it's certainly not that light, and it's definitely not easy to. It's easier than a laptop, but it's not that much easier than a laptop to carry around and open up and to use. But with an 11-inch, it's great. The one thing that I really like about it is the one reason I was having problems using an iPad as a main device is because I do a lot of remote support using things like TeamViewer and things like that, and remote desktop, and that didn't have really good interface as far as using like a Windows or Mac computer on the iPad, basically. So now I tried a few of them out. Remote desktop, the Microsoft Remote Desktop client, really works well with the trackpad. It could click on pretty much everything that you need to click on. The right click is a little wonky. You have to hold down the trackpad for a couple seconds to bring up the right click option. TeamViewer and a couple of the others aren't quite as good yet. I tried Splash Top. I tried to call a whole bunch of them, but that was good. And yeah, I still don't think I could use it as my main computer, but it really changes the iPad. It makes it into a completely different device.
And I was reading a lot of reviews. I wanted to see what other people were talking about. I just watched with Lori Gill the other day with you and MacBook Wheelie. She was raving about the keyboard, and I can agree with her 100% on this. The keyboard is just phenomenal. I know Leo Laporte didn't get his yet, until he couldn't really judge it either, because he was crying about it. He couldn't do anything about it because it hadn't arrived yet, like you. So, but I know we'll be hearing from Rene and I'm sure Leo next week and on MacBook Weekly. But overall, I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm impressed with. I had the old keyboard case, and I just didn't like that keyboard at all, and the angle just didn't work well. The angle is nice. I like the way it feels. I've been using it for like a lot of note taking. Like I was doing I had to do a training session this afternoon, and I like the fact that having my notes right on the iPad and I'm just looking at my screen, being able to do it. And I had the keyboard there, had the touchpad. It had a much better feeling experience, not having to have to do it on the iPad itself. So very well made. A couple of little caveats, things I might say it's not so great is you got to be real careful where you grab it and the way you because if you grab it in the wrong spot, the iPad's is gonna come off. I mean, the magnet is pretty strong for the most part, but I've seen instances like if I get under the wrong way, it's gonna pop off, and you worry that thing's gonna fall. So just gotta be real careful with that. But other than that, I mean, it works really great. And I know some people I know, Justine actually did it where she flipped it over. She wanted to use it as a tablet, and then she just flipped it over, and the keyboard looks kind of goofy, but you're looking at a keyboard at the front of you. But you flip it over, and then you can just use it as a tablet. So, but Rene, I would just like to hear just from what you've read so far and what you've seen. I know I'm anxious to see your video about this soon here. But what have you seen so far?
I think my preconception, and this could all change, but just watching that video with Craig Federighi that they put out when the iPad Pro first came out, that I think some people approached it like another case, and then they were worried about how heavy it was and how thick it was, where to me it looked like a dock. Like the idea is it's not really like meant to be a Surface or meant to be a MacBook Air. It's meant to be an iPad. And if you want to use it for like very traditional computer things, you can walk up just like Craig did and slap it in, and it becomes your computer, your traditional computer. You can sit there and type and use a trackpad. But like you never saw him fold it up and carry it away. He planked it down, picked it up, walked away, and used it as an iPad again. And I think that's a really key difference. There's no kickstand in the back like the Surface. It's all built into the stand, so that when you take it off, it really is like, not to be too West Wing about it, but it's like, let iPad be iPad. And I think that's what this is good at. When it's down there, it's got the USB-C, it's got the keyboard, it's got the trackpad, it's got the trackpad. Sit there, type, cursor, everything, get up, walk away, play your games, check your mail, read your web, whatever. And I like that sort of separation. I'll see if I like it when I use it, but intellectually, I like that separation.
Well, I look forward to your review on it. One other thing I'll tell you is there is a USB-C jack on the left side of the iPad, but it's only for charging. You cannot use it for data. I tried it, and in fact, I was watching Micah Sargent on iOS today to do it. I wonder if it works or not. And as I was watching, I was like, I better try it before he does it. And sure enough, it doesn't pick up a drive using that jack. That jack on the keyboard is just for charging. I am noticing that it does drain the battery a little quicker than normal that I've been watching. So I think that's what the other complaints about it is. But other than that, I think it's a beautifully designed keyboard. The backlit keyboard is great. You can have it in your lap, and if you're in a dark room, you'll be able to see it without a problem. And it's gonna be interesting to see where everything goes with Apple on this. And I think both Warren and I will give it our seal of approval that it's a great keyboard. It is expensive, so that's the only thing you got to think about is if you got an iPad Pro, you got to spend for the 11-inch, it's $299, and for the 12.9-inch, it's the it's $349. So do you use the 11 or do you use the 12.9?
I use the 12.9. I used to use the small one. Like I had the 9.7 and then I had the 10.5. But when they did the redesign in 2018, they just made the 12.9 inch so much smaller that I figured I'm going to move up. It's like the opposite reaction I had to the Max. Like I want bigger and it's not that much bigger. I'm going to do it.
Okay. I tell you one thing, this keyboard makes me consider trading mine in for 12.9.
Going to 12. Yeah, it is small.
Yeah. I mean, once you start using an iPad as a computer, you start using an iPad as a computer, and then, you know, it's a smaller screen. And some of the things that you're doing, you wish you had a little bit of a bigger screen, but that would be a pretty big hit if I had to sell the iPad along with the Magic keyboard thing and buying both.
It's pricing it out to close to a high-end MacBook Pro. So
yeah, I'm
all said and done. So
talk me out of that one.
That's what we got about the Magic Keyboard. As a little remaining time we have left, I had one tip I wanted to talk about here that I have in the notes. I've always had a challenge with the side button where it's getting harder and harder to click. And especially I have a case on mine. That's probably another reason why you shouldn't have a case on your phone, right, Rene? Because a lot of these cases inhibit the side button when you're trying to make a purchase or try to approve purchasing something in the App Store. But again, we've had Shelley Brisbane on before talking about the accessibility, and I think this is another great accessibility tip that's out there. And this is a way you can slow it down. And what you do is you actually go into the settings, and then you go into accessibility. There actually is a selection in there called side button, and there are some settings in there that you can go in and make a change to. There's a click speed, which is set at default. And if you feel that your speed is you're having challenges doing that, you can set it to slow, and it might help you out a little bit. And then you always can set it to slowest. I probably wouldn't set it to slowest because that might be too slow. So you have some changes there that you can do in there as well. And also when you press and hold to speak, if you want to use that for Siri, that setting is in there as well. You can do Siri classic voice control. You can turn that off completely if you don't like holding your button in to talk to her. I gotta say S lady. And then you also have the option if you want to make passcode payments instead of using Touch ID or Face ID, then you could do that. So check out that tip. That's going to be in the show notes. And then we got two apps we want to talk about real quick. Orm, you had one that you threw in there that I have used this. I've used this service before, but I always thought it was a little sketchy.
Yeah, I think I had a problem once with privacy, but I think they fixed it, and I had it for a while now. But it's Unroll Me is what it is, and I put it on a couple of years ago. And the reason I brought it back up is I don't know what is causing it, but I've just noticed my I'm getting a lot of spam, a lot of more spam than normal, and a lot of weird political things that I don't want either. So, one attack is to try the unsubscribe thing, try the iOS unsubscribe thing. But I've used this in the past, so it's been a while, and I fired it back up, and it basically ties into your email accounts. It doesn't work with everyone, but it works with most of them. And it will basically unroll you. What it does is basically takes your email that comes in as spam, that you tell it that it's spam from the sender. You'll see it actually pop up in your email for like a second or two, and then you'll see it automatically move to the trash at that point. So it's basically like almost like a rule. It's a rule basically, but it runs on the server, and it does a fairly good job. And nobody stole any information I'm aware of. So and I've been using it for a couple of years. So
I'll go back and check it out again, because I deleted it because of the privacy stuff I was real concerned about. So maybe
you got to be careful giving, it does a pretty good job with the authentication. When you go to the Microsoft and Google, it opens up their web interface to log you in. So, there's some security in that, but no, I get it. I get you.
Yeah. Well, my app, and I don't know, Rene, have you used TikTok yet?
I have. Oh, I haven't used it. I've browsed it. Like I followed Justine when she went on there,
Yes,
and I've seen
so
a few
did I.
other people, but I haven't done any videos of my own yet.
No, me either. And I put this in here most so I think it's fun, silly videos to watch. I'm more of a voyeur. I want to just be a lurker and watch. And I don't know if I would be able to do some of the things that people do on there, but most of the stuff has been, somewhat appropriate, but it can get a little rough under the edges. But it is a Chinese company, and there had been some concerns about privacy, so you got to be kind of aware of that. But it's got over 2 million active members already. The people are doing videos like crazy. I've seen J-Lo on there. I've seen The Rock was just did a video I think we saw the other day, and there's a lot of celebrities on there that it's become quite the phenomenon. So I thought it's a fun thing to check out with short videos. I think you only go for 15 seconds up to I think 60 seconds.
I think it's a minute, but like they seem to mostly be like 15, 30 seconds.
Yeah. We kind of compared it to what Quibi is with the video service, which has got the 7 minutes of shows you can watch. But this is a little more social media type. But who knows? I mean, with everything we're trying to get our names out there in social media worlds, TikTok is a place to go. Yeah, Justine's put some funny stuff on there.
She's terrific.
That's fun stuff.
The young kids loved it until it became mainstream, and now the old people use it. So
that's like Facebook, right? It's your dad's social network.
Yeah, my son, this was like 3 months ago. My son was like into it. I'm like, oh, have you heard of TikTok recently? Yeah, we don't use it anymore. Now it's
now they moved on to something else.
Yeah, it's for the boomers. Yeah, we don't do it anymore.
Renee, did you happen to have any apps that you've been using lately that you could think of, or?
Wow. There's probably a dozen of them, and just none of them are coming to mind right now.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
no, not at all. I usually have something. I'm usually prepared for like Leo when he's like pick of the week time, but
it's okay. I should have warned you ahead of time, but
no, not at all. No worries.
But no, that's okay. Yeah, we got the 2 apps. We'll have links in the show notes for both, and we'll check that out. So
I do recommend, like, just if you are not already using the FlexiBit stuff, like Fantastical, and I'm totally blanking on the name of the address book app now, but they just make, those are the things I hate doing the most, is updating addresses and updating my calendar. And Michael Simmons is such a jerk, and Kent is such a jerk that they make it so easy to do that I have no excuse for not doing it. So I use those all the time. You just natural language, they're in the menu bar, and you get I use Siri a lot to put stuff into these things, but finding it, putting it out, typing in, I just love it. It's just like your Mac on Nitro or something.
Yeah. Well, and then we can always say an RIP to Wunderlist, because that's going to be gone another week. Because I'm in the Microsoft world, Microsoft To Do, and I was just doing a training session on that this afternoon. So I thought of it. And I said, oh man, it's sad that the link to Apple is gone. So, well, this show that we just whizzed by here. It was such a great episode. I really appreciate you being here, Renee. And let me wrap things up here real quick, and we'll ask how we can get a hold of you and in just a second, but let me go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. And Renee, please tell everybody how we can find you. Tell us about your YouTube page and whatever you'd like to share.
So I'm incredibly consistent. You can find me @Rene Ritchie on almost anything. So youtube.com/Rene Ritchie, twitter.com/Rene Ritchie, instagram.com/Rene Ritchie. As long as you can spell it, you can probably find me on wherever you're going.
All right, great. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
This was such a great show. Warren, where can everybody find you?
It doesn't matter. Once you find Renee, you don't need me anymore.
Come on.
Not true.
Yeah, whatever. WSCLOR is Twitter. I do run a couple of Facebook groups, Apple related, but the biggest one is the Mac to the Future one, where we have over 3,000 Apple lovers and occasionally Apple haters joining. And it's a fun group. We talk about things Pretty much all technology is not really one of those Facebook groups where people are just asking for help all the time. It's more of a, kind of a conversational group, which is nice. And that's really it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Rene. This was
thank you.